Welcome back to Grasping the Gridiron. As always, I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and thank you for listening. Today, we'll be looking at the Week 5 college football breakdown and look at games across the country and what's happening in the Northwest. All right, so the first game across the country is Alabama and Georgia, and this is a number 17 Alabama Crimson Tide team sitting at 2-1, and this is a number 5 Georgia Bulldogs team sitting at 3-0 here and a 1-0 in SEC play. This one is Saturday, September 27th at 4:30 p.m. on ABC, and I'm really excited to see how this Georgia defense pairs against this Alabama offense. Kirby Smart's led this 3-3-5 tight style defense with a 4-2-5 hybrid defense, and they've honestly just been one of the best defenses in the country year in and year out. And if there's one thing you can count on with Georgia Bulldogs football, it's their defense and Kirby Smart having a great pass rush and a great rally to the football and run defense. And so taking a look at Georgia's defensive numbers so far this year, they are 39th in the FBS in overall defense, 81st in pass defense, 17th in rush defense, and 39th in scoring. So you look at that rushing defense, and they're top 20, and looking to improve that. And overall, I think Georgia's going to have a really solid year on the defensive end, and it'll be just a great test here against this Alabama offense, who is coming in at 9th in passing, 31st in overall offense, 103rd in rushing, and 19th in scoring. So, in terms of scoring and passing, they're ranking well so far. But wanting to get that rushing up, especially with an Alabama team that traditionally with Saban has been a run first team. And then developing the pass game second with the great receivers. But you look at the history of backs at Alabama and the history of offensive linemen at Alabama throughout the years. Alabama can't afford to lose the run game as a part of their identity. So I'm really interested to see how Kalen DeBoer can right the ship there, and they're really going to be an exciting team to watch going forward. Both these teams are, and the one thing I also want to talk about really quick is the Alabama defense before we get into player breakdown, because the Alabama defense has really been a solid group this year, and they've the rankings suggest that as well, and it's something that with Kalen DeBoer I wasn't necessarily expecting consistently, but they are third in passing defense, and 27th in scoring defense, and 17th in overall defense. So all things considered, they're actually ranking higher than Georgia in overall defense. So that'll be fun to see how that progresses throughout the season and in this matchup here. Looking on the player side of things, for Alabama, I think it's gonna be huge to have Ty Simpson continue with the production that he's had. 862 yards through the air, 9 touchdowns, and a 71.9 completion percentage. I think Ty Simpson is really going to be he's really going to be the player to watch for Alabama and the guy that gets this thing going. You listen to their rushing numbers there so far this season, and that's not going to be their bread and butter. So Ty Simpson's going to be my guy to watch for that one. And on the other side for Georgia, it's going to be Zachariah Branch, that wide receiver. He's got 181 yards on 11 catches and 2 touchdowns to start the season in 3 games for Georgia here. So this will be a really great matchup, and a really pivotal SEC game that will have college football playoff implications and long-term implications as well. And our next game to watch across the country is the number 4 LSU Tigers sitting at 4-0 here and 1-0 in SEC play versus the number 13 Ole Miss Rebels sitting at 4-0 and 2-0 in SEC play. This one is September 27th at 12:30 p.m. on ABC, and the matchup here is going to be this Ole Miss offense and LSU defense. Taking a look at the stats for the LSU defense here first, they are 17th in overall defense, 43rd in passing defense, 10th in rushing defense, and 9th in scoring defense, only giving up 9.3 points a game against their opponents so far. Just been a dominant unit to start, and um, uh, going to be a really, really dominant unit all year long, and an LSU team that really has some college football and playoff and national championship aspirations and intentions. And I think they can seriously get it done. And this will be that matchup. So looking at that Ole Miss offense, they're coming in at ninth in FBS. In overall offensive production, 14th in passing offense, 25th in rushing, and 12th in scoring, putting up 44.8 points a game against their opponents to start the year here. So that matchup, when you look at the offense and the defense, there's the Ole Miss offense and LSU defense, how whopping in discrepancy it is for scoring and then total defense. It's going to be super super fun to watch how they clash and how Lane Kiffin, as this play caller and de facto offensive coordinator as the head coach of Ole Miss, just how he responds to this LSU defense and how Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin as head coaches just play chess throughout this game, and this will just be a really really fun one here, just all around. Um, and then when you look at just players to watch for LSU, it's going to be the quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier. 960 yards to start the year, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 68.6 completion percentage there. And this will be a really great game against an Ole Miss defense too that is going to be really tested with this LSU offense overall, and he's going to be throwing the ball to Aaron Anderson and handing the ball off to leading rusher Caden Durham. So taking a look then at Ole Miss, guys to watch there. I'm going with Keywan Lacey, who's got 358 yards and 79 carries and 7 touchdowns to start the year. So he'll be a really really fun and interesting matchup to watch against the LSU pass defense and an LSU program that historically has made some really great DBs. So and really great linebackers, and especially this week, with the LSU linebacking core, how they're going to respond against that rushing attack and Kawhi Lacey. All right, the next game for us takes us out to the Big 12 and Utah versus West Virginia here. This one is going to be September 27th, Saturday as well, and another 12:30 game, and this one's going to be on Fox. The Utah Utes are 3-1 here, 0-1 in Big 12 play to start the year, and are unranked. And West Virginia is unranked as well, and they're 2-2 and 0-1 to start Big 12 play. And this one for me is huge because I think Utah is going to be really important when it comes down to the Big 12 contention and down the stretch. And Utah's got a great 1-2 combo offensively with Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker, and it'll just be really, really interesting to see how West Virginia and Rich Rodriguez in his first season back in his second stint as the head coach for West Virginia, how they do and how they respond to some early adversity here through 4 games. It's a monumental game for both West Virginia and Utah, as this has big Big 12 implications moving forward and for the momentum of these programs moving forward. And looking at some stats here for players on both teams. West Virginia's got a really fun back that I like in Ty Edwards, and so far he's got 141 yards on 25 carries and 3 touchdowns, and well, looking to get some significantly more production as the year moves on, and they'll really want to get him going against Utah and establish the run game. And then in terms of player to watch for the Utes, it's Devin Dampier on in both the passing and rushing. He's got a 790 yards through the air, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 70.9% completion percentage there. And on the ground, he's got 225 yards on 44 carries and a touchdown. So he's just been every bit electric, and he's just been the player that we saw at New Mexico extended here against better competition. So I'm excited to see how things look in Morgantown, West Virginia this Saturday. Our last game nationally here is Notre Dame and Arkansas. And this one is Saturday, September 27th at 9 a.m. on ABC. Notre Dame's ranked 22 in the country, and they're 1-2 to start the year, and Arkansas is unranked at 2-2. This is just a huge game, not only for Marcus Freeman, but for Sam Pittman as well at Arkansas, and his program, his job, his legacy. And then, going back to Freeman, his job, not necessarily, but his legacy, absolutely. And, especially coming off of a year where they were in the national championship, and a year that they really burst back onto the scene. This is an opportunity for them to really start to right the ship and put some style points on potentially. But don't get me wrong, this Arkansas team is going to be incredibly tough, and this is going to be a game in Fayetteville that is going to give Notre Dame it just absolute fits. And looking at players to watch in this game, it's for Arkansas, it's the quarterback Talon Green. He's got 1,191 yards to start the year, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a 64% completion percentage. So it will be really, and then on the ground as well, he's been exceptional with 360 yards, 44 carries, and 2 touchdowns. And through 4 games, you'd like to have your quarterback run the ball less, but in terms of sheer carries. But Talon Green's a really, really great athlete, and I think they're going to run the ball with him a ton this year. And so hopefully, he can continue to maintain his health. And I think he's going to have a really great game here early at home against Notre Dame. And for Notre Dame, it's the running back Jeremiah Love. He's got 284 yards this year on 52 carries and 3 touchdowns. And if they can get him going early here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, Jeremiah Love has an opportunity to really carry the team for Notre Dame and get things steam rolling and get out of Fayetteville with a win early there. And this is just going to be a really, really great game to watch and very monumental game for both programs going forward. Taking a look at our first game here in the Northwest, the Oregon Ducks travel to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions, and this is a huge game not only for the Big Ten but nationally. And this one's Saturday at 4:30 on NBC, and it's a number 6 Oregon team that's 4-0 and 1-0 in Big Ten play to start the year, and this is a number 3 Penn State Nittany Lions squad that's 3-0 to start the year, and will have their first Big Ten game against Oregon. And this is a big first test for both of these teams, both of these programs moving forward. Great clash between 2 great coaches in Dan Lanning and James Franklin, and it'll just be incredibly, incredibly fun to see not only what these programs do moving forward, but what this game means in terms of implications, not only for the college football playoff, but long term for these programs. And the Ducks have just been the hottest team in college football, and they've outscored their opponents by an average of 51-9. And so they've just been absolutely dominant. And, Penn State is linebacker U and edge U, and they've just created a consistent pass rush year in and year out. And, James Franklin's been a cultivator of that. And so this will be a great clash between what I'm excited to see how Dante Moore, a guy who's been playing incredibly great so far to start the year, how he responds to potentially some adversity here on the road, and what's going to be a whiteout game for Penn State in an absolutely insane atmosphere. The young quarterback is really going to have to play like a veteran in order for Oregon to win. And I know Dante Moore's had some experience previously, but this is really going to be the biggest test of his career, playing for Oregon. So this is an opportunity for him to assert himself as the guy moving forward in the Big Ten at the quarterback position, and an opportunity for him to be insert himself into the national conversation all around, because I think it's one of those things that Oregon's had a history of quarterback success, and he has an opportunity to continue that and potentially springboard himself into a future NFL career. And these two teams have just been phenomenal to start the year, and this is going to be two trains going on the same track right at each other. So I'm excited to see that collision. The next game in the Northwest is Washington and Ohio State, and this is just going to be a really, really great game to watch, because Husky Stadium is not only one of the greatest settings in college football, it is absolutely one of the most brutal settings to play in college football. And so this is going to be absolutely electric for Washington, who is coming off of a really great Apple Cup performance in Pullman against the Cougars. And Damon Williams has just been on an absolute tear. Jonah Coleman's been on an absolute tear, and Denzel Boston's been on an absolute tear. This offense has a three-headed monster that is absolutely prone to be successful long term. And I think this is a great matchup against Ohio State, who is obviously the number one team in the country. And this is I start with Washington because this is an opportunity for them to upset the number one team in the country, and put the country on notice as a potential contender, because Jonah Coleman's got 347 yards on the ground on 51 carries, 9 touchdowns. Damon Williams got 778 yards through the air, 6 touchdowns, 73.5% completion percentage. And then you've got Denzel Boston, who's got 249 yards on 16 catches and 3 touchdowns through the air there. And their offense has just been electric to start the year, to propel them to a 3-0 record. And flipping it to Ohio State, who's 3-0 and obviously coming off of a national championship, and a stellar performance to start the year, beating Texas, and just has continued that momentum. Julian Sayin, 779 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a near 80% completion percentage at 78.9 there. He's just been, incredibly sharp. Obviously, you see that completion percentage and the 8 touchdowns, and it'll just be wild to see how he responds to this Huskies matchup, not only defensively with the Huskies D line, but how he responds to the crazy setting and these rabid Husky fans and what is a really loud stadium. So another guy for Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, obviously, who the best receiver in the country, 315 yards and 20 catches, 3 touchdowns. And when you look at this, Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston, Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, this is a star-studded matchup. Really, really excited to see this one, and one that I think Washington has a legitimate chance of upsetting. And Ohio State obviously is the number one team in the country, and you look at their scoring defense, 5.3 points per game. They've been shut out defensively, but I think Washington's going to give them fits, and I think we're going to be looking at both of these teams differently, just long term, in terms of vulnerability for Ohio State, and contention for Washington, and it'll be fun. Next up is Houston at Oregon State. This one is September 26th, actually, a Friday game at 7:30 p.m. in Corvallis, and the students will be back in the stands for the Beavers, and so I'm thinking that will make a major positive impact on the home environment for Oregon State, and a Beaver team that under Trent Bray is defensive led, and that's been their bread and butter. But it's kind of been one of many negative blemishes on their record for Oregon State in an 0-4 year. I think this is a major game for Trent Bray against the 3-0 Houston Cougars squad. It's gonna be about keeping your job for Trent Bray moving forward, and I think this is pivotal. And he's gonna need to rely on two guys offensively to get this team going, and Anthony Hankerson and Trent Walker, and Hankerson's got 228 yards on 65 carries, 2 touchdowns, and Walker's got 302 yards on 23 catches, and he's yet to find the end zone this year. So it would be great to get Walker in the end zone this game, and also get the ground game going with Hankerson. And it's been difficult with Malik Murphy, who's thrown 5 interceptions and only has a 57% completion percentage. So it's going to be pivotal that they get that going here at home against Houston. And looking at Houston, Connor Wegman's been great. 569 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 64.3% completion percentage. And they've been going to Dean Connors on the ground, who has 271 yards on 50 carries and 3 touchdowns. And I'm just excited to see how this 3-0 Houston team performs on the road in a late night environment on Friday against a struggling Oregon State squad that I think is going to be desperate. And by desperate, I mean they're going to be playing fundamental and also have some really good well dialed up plays on offense. So I'm excited to see this one in the Pacific Northwest home matchup for the Oregon State Beavers. Next here, we've got Washington State at Colorado State, and this one's going to be in Fort Collins at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday on the CBS Sports Network. And I'm excited to see how Jimmy Rogers and the Washington State Cougars respond after the Apple Cup here. Zevi Eckhouse going to be the full-time guy leading the charge for the Cougars now, and they figured that out here against Washington in the Apple Cup, where they were in it as of late, and then Washington got some garbage time points and really looked great as a national contender. But for Washington State, it's going to be about establishing an identity, not only defensively, but trying to get something going on the ground, because they've been able to throw the ball well this year, but they haven't been able to get the ground game going at all. And in fact, they just really ranked terribly, and it's been such a concern because rushing, they're ranking 135th in the country. They're only putting up 58.3 yards per game on the ground, and it's absolutely terrifying for the foundation of this program moving forward. And I think it starts with using Kirby Voorhees as the lead back. He's been the leading rusher so far for the Cougars, and a guy that has been great for them offensively and defensively. And so get him going, and I think that establishes a very fundamental and balanced offense with both run and pass, where you can have him be a lead back on the ground and a third down situational back, and then obviously you sprinkle everyone else in. But getting the offensive line in sync has been a challenge all year, and I think this will be a game where it's incredibly pivotal for that group going forward. And if they can get some momentum like they started to against San Diego State, in parts against Washington, I think things will be great for them momentum wise moving forward the rest of the year. So this is a big one for Washington State against a Colorado State squad led by Jay Norvell and Braden Fowler Nicolosi, who he's been a consistent guy for them year in and year out. And this year he's sort of struggled, all things considered. 481 yards, a touchdown, two interceptions, and 53% completion percentage through the air. And so, all this is a really really exciting game as an alumni, and a pivotal game for the Jimmy Rogers squad. Our last game here is App State at Boise State here. This is a 2-1 App State squad going into a 2-1 Boise State road environment, and a home game for the Broncos there. This game's at 4:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1 at Albertson Stadium, September 27th, Saturday. And I'm just excited how they can get the ground game going, because the Broncos are coming off of a year last year in the college football playoff, and an Ashton Jeanty led squad that they were wanting to get back into the college football playoff and make a run out of this thing. And so far, that South Florida loss really lingers, and I'm not sure if just with that South Florida loss, they would have to have some things happen. I don't think they're going to get in as is, and so. It's going to be important that they get Dylan Riley going on the ground, and getting this stable of backs going on the ground, and opening up things for Maddox Madsen on the play action side of things. And I think this is a pivotal game for this program moving forward and heading into Pac-12 play next year. And now for our predictions for the week. So starting with Alabama, Georgia, I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs here. I take it. I love Kirby Smart, and comparing these two coaches and their resumes, I think Kirby and the Bulldogs come out on top, especially with that Georgia defense and that Alabama offense matchup. And then LSU, Ole Miss. I'm taking Ole Miss here at home. I think Lane Kiffin and the Rebels are gonna get it done, and generate some momentum early against an LSU squad that has been a defensively led squad, and but has a great offense. And so I think that they are going to duel, but Ole Miss's early momentum is going to carry them through. And then next is Utah and West Virginia. And with this one, I'm going Utah on the road. I think Devin Dampier gets things going just early, and then generates enough momentum late with the tandem of Wayshawn Parker. And I think Utah skirts out with a road victory against West Virginia. Next is Notre Dame, Arkansas. And in this one, I've got Arkansas taking this one at home, and Sam Pittman potentially saving his legacy and job, so to speak, at Arkansas. And I think this Arkansas team is going to be, rallying around a coach at home here. And so Arkansas gets the win at home. Now into the Northwest, I've got Oregon and Penn State, and in this one, I'm going to take Oregon. I think that this offense, and with DeCorian Moore, Kenyon Sadiq, an offensive line that has had struggled at times, even though they're on the road against a great Penn State defense. I think that 1-2 punch of DeCorian Moore and Dante Moore, and then throw in Kenyon Sadiq as well, who's been exceptional at the tight end position in their first big test. I'm taking Oregon, and who's gonna come up with a big road victory at Penn State in Happy Valley in a whiteout game. And then Ohio State and Washington. This one, I think Washington really, really gives Ohio State fits, and it goes down to the wire. But I think this Ohio State squad is just too deep. They've got a great defense and the best receiver in the country. I'm going with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then next is Houston and Oregon State. And I'm going with Oregon State here, getting their first victory of the year. I think the students being back in the stands for in Corvallis for the Beavers, I think is going to be huge. And I think Trent Bray gets his first win of the season against a really good Houston team so far this year. And then next is Washington State at Colorado State. And I think this one, Washington State gets things going early offensively with this newfound identity in Zevi Eckhouse at leading the charge. And then I think the defense carries the charge in the second half, and WSU ultimately wins handily in Colorado State and in Fort Collins. And then lastly here is App State at Boise State, and I think Boise State's going to grab some momentum here on the blue turf in front of the home fans against what is a good App State squad and program traditionally. But I think, Boise State really is going to try to, propel this thing forward for towards the postseason if they can with some help with other people.